Hey everybody, John McClellan here at ATX Hot Sauce. Check us out, subscribe below. You know, typically on these videos I have a sauce that I've done before and I like to share it with you. Well, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I've been fermenting some honey with garlic lately, and I woke up in the middle of the night the other day and said, you know what if I mixed honey and garlic with habanero to make a fermented hot sauce with it? I guess we'll find out. Hey guys, John McClellan here. Well, we're going to make that fermentation, that hot sauce made with a fermented garlic and habaneros. Maybe add a couple other ingredients with the sauce to have a good taste. Like I said before, I've never made this recipe before. It just popped in my head in the middle of the night. And typically when I like to share these recipes, it's something I've tried over and over again. But I do think this one is going to be spectacular, so we'll see it. Now, you've heard me talk about this before. I have my book of fermentations. Pages and pages where I take notes. You need to be doing this if you're not, because when you do a fermentation for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, a year, you want to make sure you write down the ingredients and what you're putting in there. And that's what we're going to do here. This one's really, really easy though, right? In fact, we're on fermentation number 170. It's 170 here and just in this book right here. And all it is honey and garlic. I know it doesn't sound like you need to write that down, but you should. It's just honey and garlic, okay? We've got it in the book, so we're going to move on. Now, you want to take a mason jar, make sure you clean it thoroughly, make sure you sanitize this very, very well. Then we're going to take all the garlic cloves and put them inside. So let's do that real quick. Now, you want to make sure that they kind of settle down in there. You don't want to fill it all the way to the top, but you want to get pretty close. And yes, I have washed these garlics, and I washed my hands too. Next, what we're going to do, and I know this is super complicated, so follow along here. We're going to take local natural honey made here in Austin, Texas. It's wildflower honey, and we're going to pour it over the garlic. All right? Now, garlic is a natural, it's one of the oldest fermentation processes that there are out there. In fact, there's evidence from like 9500 BC in northern China making mead with honey in a fermentation process. Now, this is the part that may take a little bit longer, because as you're putting the honey in, it's pretty darn thick, as you can see, and it's got to flow all the way down to the bottom. So it may have to let it sit here, drizzle down, sit, drizzle down. So we'll let that happen here. All right, so our honey pouring is taking a little bit longer, but through the magic of film and steps I've done ahead of time, we're going to go ahead and put a lid on this and let that honey just soak down and add some more honey just a little bit later. But what I do have is the finished product, and I want to compare these two real quick. I've had this fermentation going for about 4 months now. It's just honey and garlic. This is the one we were just doing a few minutes ago. This is what it looks like after it's been fermenting for a while. You notice the honey changes color, becomes a lot more liquidy in there. What it does is it's pulling out some of the water from the garlic and mixing it in there. Now, there's a lot of people that also say that this is a great medical thing for you. If you have allergies, if you think you're coming down with a cold, take one of these puppies out, chew it up. A lot of the garlic is kind of taken away from it. The real stringent garlic taste is taken away, replaced by that sweet honey, a little bit more watery. I don't know about the medicinal purposes for it or applications for it, but it does taste good. And so, you know, there's stories of people having these jars for 3, 4, 5 years and just keeping them in their cabinet and eating them when they're good. And the longer you can ferment these garlic cloves, the better it's going to be. Now, also, we're going to be making that habanero honey garlic sauce today. Here's some habaneros I've been fermenting for about 2 months, just straight habaneros in a 3.5% brine. I have no idea what I'm going to call this sauce, so I'm going to challenge you, all of my subscribers, all the people watching, in the comments below. Tell me what you think of this, and then give me some ideas for a name, right? I think we're going to let our audience name this sauce. It's going to have basically habaneros, fermented garlic and honey, maybe a little bit of vinegar, and that's about it. All right, before we get started on the sauce, I do want to show you the honey fermentation right here with the garlic that we've been working on today. One of the things you want to be careful about, make sure you get a good sanitized lid and put it on the top. I leave it a little bit loose for the first probably 5 days, or you can put it on tighter and burp it. But one of the things I do recommend is that you put it in a dark cabinet, but put it in a bowl. if the honey's good and fresh and the garlic's fresh, the fermentation process can be pretty intense, right? So a lot of bubbles happen, a lot of expansion, and you don't want that honey pouring out all over your inside cabinet or wherever you're storing it. So I always put a bowl underneath it. So just a little trick here. Make sure you put that on. I like to put it on just a little bit loose fitting so the bubbles can get out, doesn't build up too much. If you do put it on tight, make sure you burp it at least once a day for the first week, or maybe even a little bit longer, because it will be a very active fermentation. All right, now let's get it into the blender, start blending all this stuff up. I went ahead and put gloves on. These are habaneros, and if you get it in your eyes, you get it anywhere else that you don't want to get it, it's kind of a little painful. So we're gonna add all this to the blender. God, those are just absolutely gorgeous. Okay. Now we're gonna reserve this brine from this batch. What I like to do with some of these brines that I have left over, it makes for a great starter batch on a new fermentation, vegetables, or whatever it is. Gets the process started a lot quicker. All right, let's open this one up. Pull out that fermentation weight. Give it the smell. Ooh, that smells so good. I have a feeling that this pH might be a little bit lower than that other batch, although I made them both at the same time with the same brine and everything. God, beautiful colors. These were actually beautiful habaneros. They were about this big, perfectly orange when I bought them. Wish I could find them this good all the time. All right, we're gonna add these to the blender also. This is why we should be wearing gloves doing this, because you don't want to get this in your eye. All right, get all of those puppies in there. I'm gonna take the pH of this one now too. About this. About a 3.9%. So 3.8, 3.9 on both of those. All right, we'll put that aside. And I'm gonna pour some of this brine in here. Oops, got a little stem there from when I cut them up. We'll add in that brine. We'll put this aside to reserve it. My favorite blender of all time here, by the way. We're gonna make a little bit room for everything else that's gonna go in there. Okay, that's probably good enough. Now, add a little bit of the vinegar in here. I've got 2 cups of vinegar. I'm gonna start out with 1 cup of vinegar. There we go. Put this back on. That's apple cider vinegar, by the way. All right, that's good enough for getting all this in there. We got to put the garlic in, right? And we're going to use this one right here, not the new one. I'm going to reserve this brine too. Just going to mix it in with the other one. And I'm going to put this aside because we may need a little bit more of it. And like I said, for future fermentations. We've got a lot of honey in here and a lot of garlic. Ah, a little tough. I think it's still fermenting just a little bit. All right, we're going to take all this and we're just going to pour it right in. Look at these garlics. They are absolutely beautiful. They were white to begin with. The longer you ferment them, the darker they're going to get, the more watery the honey's going to get. But these went for 4 months. I actually tasted one with Jared, our cameraman here earlier too. Hopefully it'll make us healthy for the rest of the week, right? So we're going to start out by adding all this garlic into these habaneros right here. All right, let's try that. Now, there's already a lot of honey in there, right? So I want to blend this up a little bit. We're going to give it a little bit of a taste. More brine. See how we're doing here. Smells pretty good. I'm gonna have to take a taste of it though. All right, let's give it a quick taste test. Well, there's the heat. So immediately I taste the sweet, some garlic, a little bit of the vinegar, then that heat hits you. All right, we're done blending. What I love about this blender, not only does it blend all the ingredients, crush all the seeds, just really make it a great sauce, it also pasteurizes it. I like to get that temperature up right at 160 and then stop it right there. Yep, we're at 160 degrees. That stops the fermentation process. And I've got a lot of messages in our comments below about, hey, why do you want to stop the fermentation process? You know, all those good bacteria are good for your gut and all that. That's true. And if I was just going to make this for home, I would probably not pasteurize it. I would just keep it in the refrigerator. The problem is when you're selling these online or you're just giving them to friends and you bottle them, is that if that fermentation process keeps on in the bottles, all that CO2 is released and the bottle can either explode in the cabinet or when you open the lid, it'll shoot a huge fountain and destroy your ceiling, not to mention your face and your eyes, right, with hot sauce, and you don't want that. So we do pasteurize it and I understand what happens. So let's get this to the bottle. All right, look at that. Whew. We have a big bottling machine. We're not going to use that today. I'm just going to kind of go old school with the funnel. Now, obviously, everything's been pasteurized and sanitized and cleaned and making sure it's all going to be good. So we're going to take some of this. Hope you can see that. Look at that. That is a good looking sauce right there, my friends. And we're going to carefully pour this in here. I haven't used the funnel method in a while because I've been using our bottler, but you know, nothing like old school. Not everybody has a bottler. Just be careful. You got a little air in on the side so it can pour in. And your thicker sauces, like this one is obviously, you don't want to overfill it and get it everywhere. Fill it up all the way to the top. It's expanded because it's warm. God, that's a great looking sauce. I wish you guys could smell this. It smells really good. And if you tuned in earlier on the video, you saw me taste it. It's a little bit warm, a little warm. We're going to taste it again once we bottle it though. You know, one of the things I've found that you can taste it while you're making the sauce or right after you bottle it, you can take it. But I've noticed that it's kind of like wine. It maybe doesn't take as long, but after about a week just sitting in the bottle, or maybe even just a couple of days, it really, all the good, more flavors start to come out. It coheses a little bit more together. So, you know, one of the things, before you start changing recipes after you're bottling this, make sure you taste a sauce that's been sitting for a couple of days, right? It's like a stew or chili or something. It's best the second day around. Now, reminder for everybody, I don't have a name for this sauce. I don't know what it is. It's garlic honey fermentation with fermented habaneros, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and some of the brine in there. That's it though. So help me come up with a name. I don't know, the roasted bee, I don't know. Tell you what, it does have a little sting to it, I will give you that. You know, habaneros aren't the hottest peppers in the world, but they're not the mildest either. All right, are we ready to taste this? First time I've ever made it, never tried it before. Tried a little bit of the blended stuff earlier, super hot. We've added a couple things after that. All it is garlic, honey fermentation, plus a habanero fermentation with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Sometimes the simplest things are the best things. The sauce is probably a little hot still too. All right. It is absolutely amazing that fermented garlic and that honey, it totally comes through at the beginning of the bite. There's the spice that comes in, coming up through my nostrils. But what I love is you get all of that garlicky honey thing right up front, and it actually lingers for a minute before bam, hits you with a little of that heat. And that's why we love about our sauces. Guess what? Flavor first, heat second. That's giving me a little bit of goosebumps now too. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this today. Please subscribe below if you want to see some more of our videos. We have them at least every couple of weeks. We're putting up new ones. Help me name this sauce in the comments below. Give us a name. Like I said, habaneros, honey, and garlic. That's all it is with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Came out fantastic. Keep watching. Thanks, guys.